Where is he? I can't see him.
Look very well. He's under. Nakoa's not letting go.
Somebody call 911. Get the divers down here now.
This wasn't just a tragic mistake. It was a warning ignored for years. If this story shakes you, it should, because it's not the first time. And if nothing changes, it won't be the last. Wait, let's go back to the beginning. It was supposed to be just another show at OceanDome Marine Park, a choreographed dance between man and beast, a performance perfected through years of training, trust, and repetition. But what happened next would leave hundreds of witnesses frozen in disbelief and would mark the last day of trainer Sam Collins' life. In front of a full arena, in broad daylight, something snapped. This isn't just a tragic story, it's a wake-up call. You're watching Animal Quest, where we uncover the stories they try to forget. If you believe animals deserve freedom and the truth deserves a voice, hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and share it to keep the conversation going. Sam Collins was just 28 years old, young, passionate, and full of promise. When he joined OceanDome Marine Park in San Diego back in 2016, he wasn't just another rookie trainer. He was the kind of person who walked into a room and made people believe in something bigger than themselves. To his colleagues, Sam was more than just a co-worker. He was the heart of the team, the guy who stayed late to care for the animals, the one who volunteered for every early morning shift, the one who called every orca by name, not number. But there was one orca who meant more to Sam than any other, a massive jet black male named Nakoa. Captured off the coast of Iceland as a calf, Nakoa had spent over 2 decades performing for crowds in concrete tanks. Many trainers avoided him. He had a reputation, temperamental, unpredictable, dangerous, but not to Sam. To Sam, Nakoa was misunderstood. He believed the orca was simply reacting to years of trauma, isolation, and confinement. He spent extra hours with him, learning his moods, developing new signals, refining their routines. He believed in the dream that humans and killer whales could connect, not just for entertainment, but for something meaningful, something beautiful. Over the years, Sam and Nakoa became the park's main attraction. Their bond was electric. Audiences were left speechless by their perfect timing, the gravity-defying stunts, the affection they seemed to share. It was easy to forget the history. The wild ocean Nakoa was taken from, the family he'd lost, the years of captivity. But behind the scenes, some began to worry, because Nakoa was changing, and so was Sam. Nakoa was the crown jewel of OceanDome Marine Park. Towering at over 20 feet long and weighing close to 6 tons, he was a sight to behold. His sleek black and white body cut through the water like a missile, his breeches could soak the front 5 rows, and his powerful tail slaps drew gasps from the crowd every single time. Children screamed with delight, parents clapped, cameras rolled. On the surface, it looked like magic, a living marvel from the deep performing stunts on cue like a trained athlete. But few in the stands knew the truth about where Nakoa came from. He was taken from the wild in 2001, just a baby, ripped from his pod off the coast of Iceland during a controversial capture operation. He never saw his mother again. From the very beginning, his life was containment. Cold transport crates, sterile tanks, unfamiliar trainers, and an endless cycle of performances. For over 2 decades, Nakoa was passed between marine parks like a piece of property. He developed sores from poor water quality, ground his teeth down by chewing on the steel gates, and spent hours floating motionless at the surface, a behavior known among experts as logging, often a sign of extreme psychological distress. He was involved in multiple incidents over the years. In 2011, a trainer was pulled underwater during a training session, narrowly escaping with a dislocated shoulder. In 2014, Nakoa refused to perform in front of a full crowd, circling the tank in agitation for over 10 minutes. Internal reports labeled him unpredictable, high risk, and in some cases, simply difficult. But OceanDome needed a star, and Nakoa was just that, as long as he stayed in line. There were rumors among staff that something wasn't right, that Nakoa had started refusing food, that he was becoming unresponsive to cues. that his eyes, once curious, now looked through you instead of at you. Still, the show went on, because behind Nakoa's majestic beauty was a silent storm building for years. And on a hot summer afternoon in August, that storm finally broke. It wasn't just one incident, it was a pattern. Subtle at first, but growing louder with time, if anyone had been listening. In early July, just 6 weeks before the tragedy, Nakoa lunged unexpectedly during a routine feeding session. His jaws snapped shut inches from a junior trainer's arm. It was brushed off as playful excitement, a one-time fluke. No injury, no harm. But then came the refusals. He began ignoring basic cues, even from Sam. Simple commands like slide out or spy hop were met with long pauses or worse. Agitated swimming, deep dives, and bursts of high-speed laps around the tank. He began slapping his tail against the walls, hard enough to echo across the park. On some days, he wouldn't eat until late into the evening. Whispers started to circulate among the staff. 2 veteran trainers requested reassignment. One quit entirely. Another, who asked not to be named, claimed she had filed multiple safety complaints with management, but received no response beyond a generic acknowledgement email. Then came the memo. It was short, barely 2 paragraphs, marked internal use only. A copy would later be leaked by a concerned employee. Limit close contact behaviors with Nakoa until further notice. Trainers are advised to remain on stage platforms unless otherwise authorized by senior staff. But even that memo never made it into Sam's hands. Some say he was kept in the dark. Others believe he knew, but ignored it, trusting the bond he'd built with Nakoa over years of work. Perhaps he didn't want to believe what was becoming obvious to everyone else, that Nakoa was deteriorating, that something inside him had fractured. Park executives, for their part, stayed silent. No statement, no adjustment to the performance schedule. Nakoa remained the headliner. Tickets continued to sell. Summer crowds packed the bleachers. Sam continued performing. And the next time Nakoa made contact with a human, it wouldn't be a warning. It would be a death sentence. Because by then, the warning had come too late. August 14th, 2023. It was a scorching summer afternoon at OceanDome Marine Park. The stands were packed, over 800 spectators, most of them tourists, children clutching cotton candy, parents snapping photos on their phones. The 2:15 p.m. Orca show was the park's crown jewel, the grand finale of a long day of family fun. Sam Collins stood behind the barrier gates, suited in his black wetsuit, barefoot on the platform. He smiled as the announcer introduced the closing act. It was a routine he'd done hundreds of times before. The rocket hop, a stunt that always drew cheers. Nakoa would dive beneath Sam, position himself just right, and then with a burst of power, launch him 15 feet into the air. Sam gave a quick wave to the crowd. Someone in the front row called out his name. He smiled, nodded, and dove in. Under the surface, Nakoa was already circling. The music swelled. Sam floated in position, body straight, arms ready. Trainers on the sidelines gave the hand signal. A pause, then movement. Nakoa surged up from the deep like a torpedo, but this time, something was off. Instead of pushing Sam gently from below as rehearsed, Nakoa collided into him with jarring force. Sam was knocked sideways in the water. From the stands, it might have looked like part of the act, but the trainers knew instantly. This wasn't right. Sam tried to recover. He swam back toward the center of the pool, likely signaling for Nakoa to reset. But before he could reach the platform, the Orca turned. Without warning, Nakoa clamped his jaws around Sam's torso and yanked him under. At first, the crowd gasped, still unsure whether it was real or just part of the performance. But within seconds, that uncertainty turned to horror. The water exploded in a fury of motion. Nakoa surfaced with Sam still in his grip. A scream pierced the air, then another. Trainers rushed to the edge of the tank, blowing emergency whistles, throwing in distraction buoys. But Nakoa didn't stop. He dove again, pulling Sam with him, only to erupt back through the surface, thrashing his body like a rag doll. The water turned red. Parents covered their children's eyes. Some ran. Others stood frozen. Over the park's loudspeakers, the music cut to static, then silence. Backstage, emergency alarms blared. Lifeguards and medics sprinted toward the arena. A trainer armed with a long pole tried to wedge it between Nakoa's teeth, but the orca bucked violently, knocking her to the ground. It took nearly 7 minutes to get Sam free. By then, his body was limp, his wetsuit shredded. A lifeguard pulled him to the platform and began CPR while others attempted to usher the orca into the medical pool. But Nakoa didn't go. He hovered motionless in the water, blood circling around him. Paramedics arrived, but it was already too late. At 2:41 p.m., Sam Collins was pronounced dead on sight. The crowd had long since been evacuated. Some were in shock. Others were sobbing. Dozens of cell phone videos were already beginning to circulate online, spreading the unthinkable in real time. In under 30 minutes, a celebrated performance had turned into a fatal nightmare. OceanDome Marine Park closed its gates for the remainder of the day. But the questions, the outrage, the grief, that was just beginning. The hours after Sam Collins' death were a whirlwind of chaos and silence. By the evening of August 14th, the incident had already become national news. Cable networks ran breaking updates. Headlines flashed across television screens. Tragic orca attack in San Diego Marine Park. Trainer killed during live show. Killer whale strikes again. But OceanDome's official response? A single-page press release distributed to local outlets just before midnight. It read, "We are deeply saddened to confirm the passing of one of our valued team members following an incident involving one of our marine mammals during today's performance. Out of respect for the family and ongoing investigation, we will not be commenting further at this time." No mention of Nakoa by name, no acknowledgement of prior warnings, no accountability. Behind closed doors, insiders say legal teams were already working overtime. Damage control began before Sam's body had even been released to his family. Staff were told not to speak to the press. Internal emails were scrubbed. Safety reports vanished from public servers. Even the Daily Show schedule was erased from the park's website by morning, but the internet doesn't forget. By noon the next day, cell phone footage from the audience had begun to surface. Shaky, grainy clips taken from the bleachers. Nakoa dragging Sam under. Screams in the background. The lifeless body being pulled from the water. Each clip was more horrifying than the last. Millions viewed it within hours. Hashtags trended worldwide. Number Justice for Sam, number Free Nakoa, number Ban Marine Parks. Then came the protests. By day 3, dozens of activists stood outside OceanDome's gates, holding signs that read, "Captivity kills, blood in the water, and shut it down." Some were longtime animal rights advocates. Others were locals, shaken by the tragedy. Still more were former park guests who said they'd never return. Park officials remained quiet. No press conferences, no interviews, no public admission of the internal memo that warned against close contact stunts. But behind the scenes, something did change. Nakoa, once the star of the OceanDome, was quietly removed from the show roster. No announcement, no retirement ceremony, no explanation to the public. One day he was on the poster, the next he was gone. Rumors swirled. Some said he was transferred to a private holding tank. Others claimed he was being retrained away from public view. The park offered no comment, but for many the silence spoke volumes, because it wasn't just a tragic accident. It was a system built on silence, built on profit, built on ignoring the warning signs until it was too late. Sam Collins was not the first trainer to die in a marine park, and unless something changes, he won't be the last. His death reawakened a haunting history, one that parks like OceanDome have spent decades trying to bury. Because what happened on August 14th wasn't a freak accident. It was the latest chapter in a long, brutal pattern. In 2010, SeaWorld trainer Dawn Brancheau was killed by an orca named Tilikum during a live show in Orlando, Florida. Tilikum had a history. He had been linked to 2 prior deaths, and yet he was kept in rotation, performing stunts for packed crowds until the day he pulled Dawn into the water and didn't let go. In 2009, Keto, a male orca in a marine park in the Canary Islands, killed his trainer Alexis Martinez during a Christmas rehearsal. Internal reports later revealed that Keto had been showing signs of aggression for weeks. No one listened. Even earlier in the 1990s, trainer Ken Peters was dragged to the bottom of a pool by an orca named Kasatka at SeaWorld San Diego. He survived, but barely. The attack, caught on tape, was buried for years before being leaked in a whistleblower investigation. The names change, the parks change, but the pattern is always the same. Dr. Laura Myers, a fictional marine biologist who spent 15 years researching captive orcas, described it best. These animals are apex predators. They're intelligent, emotional, and social. But they're also powerful beyond anything we can fully control. When you put them in tanks, strip them of their family, their freedom, their environment, they start to break down. And when they break, people die. Former trainer Marcus Hayes, who worked at OceanDome until 2018, echoed the same warning in an interview. Sam loved that orca, and I believe Nakoa loves Sam in whatever way a whale can love. But love doesn't cancel out trauma. That whale had 20 years of pain behind his eyes. That show was a time bomb. We all knew it. Some of us just didn't want to admit it. These aren't just isolated incidents, they're signals. Red flags flapping in the wind, and yet parks continue to sell the dream. Smiling trainers, dancing whales, splash zones and souvenir photos. But behind the smiles, there are scars. Behind the music, there are screams. And behind every ticket sold, there's a risk, a human life, an animal's sanity, a legacy of harm. Sam Collins is gone, but what happened to him should never be forgotten, because until the system changes, history will keep repeating itself. Captivity doesn't just kill people, it destroys orcas from the inside out. For decades, marine parks have sold the image of the happy whale, the smiling face, the playful tricks, the gentle splash. But the truth is far darker, hidden beneath the surface of chlorinated pools and rehearsed performances. Orcas in the wild swim up to 100 miles a day. They live in tightly bonded family pods. They communicate in complex dialects, mourn their dead, and form relationships that last a lifetime. But in captivity, they swim in circles for hours. Some float motionless for long stretches. An unnatural behavior called logging. Most captive orcas have collapsed dorsal fins, a telltale sign of poor health, seen in less than 1% of wild orcas, but in over 90% of those in tanks. They grind their teeth down, chewing on metal gates out of boredom and stress. Many suffer from chronic infections, broken teeth, digestive issues, and ulcers. Some show signs of self-harm, rubbing their bodies raw against tank walls, bashing their heads, or refusing food altogether. They are sentient beings trapped in bathtubs. And the worst part? They're born into it. Many captive orcas today have never seen the ocean. They've never felt the tide pull against them or heard the calls of their wild relatives. They were born in concrete tanks, raised by humans, separated from their mothers far too young, and taught to perform before they could even understand what freedom meant. But there is another way. In recent years, marine biologists and animal welfare organizations have proposed a new path forward: sea sanctuaries. These are large, netted-off ocean coves where retired orcas can live out their lives with dignity, still cared for, but no longer performing. They would feel the currents, see the sun rise and set over open water, and begin to reconnect with the natural world at their own pace. It's not perfect, it can never undo the trauma, but it's a start, and it's already happening. Pilot sanctuaries have been established in places like Iceland and British Columbia. Progress is slow but real. The question is no longer, can we do better? It's will we? Because every show that goes on, every ticket bought, every applause after a flip, it all feeds a system that values profit over life. We can do better. We must do better. For the Sams and for the Nakoas. Sam Collins' death shook the world, but his story doesn't have to end in tragedy. It can be a turning point. Sam believed in the magic of human-animal connection. He believed that orcas could trust us and that we could be worthy of that trust. But the system he believed in failed him. It failed Nakoa. And it's failing thousands of marine mammals every single day. But it's not too late to change that. If this story moved you, don't let it stop here. Don't let it fade into the noise of tomorrow's headlines. Be part of something bigger. Support the growing movement to end orca captivity. Stand with scientists, advocates, and former trainers who are calling for sea sanctuaries. Demand transparency from marine parks. Share the story. Talk about it. Challenge the illusion. Because when we stay silent, the cycle continues. For every trainer who walks into a tank, unaware of what could happen. For every orca born behind glass, never knowing the ocean. For Sam, for Nakoa. Because freedom should not be a privilege for some, it's a right for all. Thank you for watching. If this message spoke to you, please like, share, and subscribe. Let's raise our voices together and make sure no more lives are lost to silence. This isn't just about ending a show, it's about starting a movement.